If you are wearing the stripes, especially if you're, a novice official working games on the weekend, you know that making a call is just the first step.
Right.
For most penalties, it's a 2-minute trip to the box and you move on.
Yeah.
But today, we are going into the deep end of the USA hockey rulebook.
The really deep end.
Yeah, we're diving into the big four. These are the four most serious categories of penalties that fundamentally change the game. They can end a player's day and require you, the referee, to file mandatory paperwork.
And that's our mission today. We really need to nail down the differences between the major, the misconduct, the game misconduct, and the match penalty. These infractions, and they're governed primarily by rules 403 through 406. They're serious because they involve immediate administrative follow-up, potential suspensions.
And mandatory reporting.
And mandatory reporting. So for you, the official, knowing these distinctions isn't just about reading the rulebook. It's about upholding game integrity when things get heated.
Exactly. We've relied heavily on the 2025-2029 USA Hockey Rulebook and the standardized discipline document to build this deep dive, making sure we focus on what this means for you, the official.
Right.
So let's unpack this, starting with the one that immediately impacts strategy on the ice, the major penalty.
The major penalty, yeah. That's detailed in Rule 403, and it's where the consequences for aggressive play really get severe. We're talking 5 minutes of penalty time.
Right, that's the baseline.
That's the baseline.
5 minutes is substantial, but I think the real aha moment for officials moving up the ranks is understanding how that time impacts on-ice strength compared to just a regular minor penalty.
Absolutely. With a major penalty, the penalized team has to play shorthanded for the entire 5 minutes.
The whole thing.
The entire duration. And this is the single most critical distinction for a novice official to remember. Unlike a minor, a major penalty is never terminated early, even if the other team scores.
So if the power play scores, say, 15 seconds into that 5-minute major, the team serving the penalty still has 4 minutes and 45 seconds left to kill.
Yep, still shorthanded.
That dramatically alters the complexion of the game. That's Rule 402C in action, right? It confirms that an unwashable penalty time has to be served.
It has to be served. As a referee, you're essentially forcing 5 minutes of sustained defensive pressure.
Which reflects the seriousness of the infractions that typically draw a major.
For sure. These fall under what's called the aggressive infraction category, which includes certain high-impact hits or, acts that recklessly endanger an opponent.
Okay, so that level of aggression requires an official to be really confident in making that 5-minute call.
You have to be.
And this is where the major starts to interact with the administrative side, which is, that's the whole point of mastering these big four. A single major is bad enough, but what happens if a player earns a second major in the same game?
That's the instant administrative trigger. If a player gets a second major penalty during the same game, Rule 404B automatically mandates that a game misconduct penalty be assessed right there, in addition to that second major.
Wait, so is it possible for a player to face, 3 majors in one game, or does that second one just automatically end their day?
It ends their day immediately. And crucially, that second major, because it results in the game misconduct, means they face a minimum 2-game suspension.
Wow. So an immediate ejection plus mandated time off.
Exactly. It shows that USA Hockey really prioritizes player safety when that aggressive behavior becomes repetitive.
Okay, let's transition to the next level of seriousness then, the misconduct penalty, Rule 404. I often hear officials confuse this one with the major because they both involve a lot of time, but the on-ice consequence couldn't be more different.
That's a super common mistake, but you have to distinguish between time served for strategic disadvantage, like a major, and time served for disciplinary reasons, like a misconduct. So the core definition of the misconduct is 10 minutes of penalty time. But here's the key point for you, the novice referee. This penalty does not reduce the on-ice strength.
So the team is not shorthanded. A substitute player replaces the penalized player on the ice immediately.
Right.
It's essentially a 10-minute timeout for that player to cool down.
Precisely. This makes the misconduct primarily a behavioral tool. A typical scenario is when a player gets a minor for unsportsmanlike conduct, but they just keep arguing or they persist in that conduct. You then assess the misconduct penalty to remove them temporarily from the situation. That's outlined in Rule 601C.1.
Or and this is probably the most common one, using obscene, profane, or abusive language toward anyone in the rink during the game. That's explicitly covered in Rule 601C.2. It's the escalation penalty.
It is. And just like the major, the misconduct has an administrative trigger point that leads directly to an ejection. And this is a really crucial tracking responsibility for the referee.
So tell us about that tracking responsibility. What does that mean?
Rule 601D.5 states clearly that if a player receives their second misconduct penalty for any infraction, it could be for verbal abuse followed by like an equipment violation during the same game, you must assess them a game misconduct penalty instead of that second misconduct.
So you're tracking the accumulation of those 10-minute penalties. Once they hit 2, the decision is taken out of your hands. They're gone for the day.
They're gone.
So we've covered 2 of the 4. Now we tackle the game misconduct penalty itself, which is the official ejection. That's usually covered under Rule 404 as well.
Right. The game misconduct immediately suspends the player or team official for the balance of the game. They are done. And this requires immediate administrative steps.
And the on-ice manpower impact.
Yeah.
It depends entirely on how that game misconduct was assessed.
Exactly. If it was assessed along with a major penalty, like that mandatory second major we talked about,
No.
then the team still serves the 5 minutes shorthanded. But if the game misconduct was assessed alone, say, for continued abuse of officials, or for being the recipient of second misconduct, then an immediate substitution takes place, and there is no time on the clock for the team to serve.
Got it. Rule 404B allows for that immediate sub.
That's right.
So as the official, your next duty, once the call is made, is to ensure compliance with the strict removal rules.
And Rule 404C is crystal clear on this. The penalized individual may not remain near the bench or try to direct the play of their team for the rest of the game.
So they need to go to the dressing room, period.
This is crucial. And administratively, this is where the penalty hits the player's record. A game misconduct results in an automatic suspension for the team's next scheduled game, or, again, a minimum of 2 games if it was the result of a second major.
And even though the player isn't serving physical time in the box, the game misconduct still gets officially logged against them.
Yeah. Rule 404B, Note 2, specifies that a total of 10 minutes is charged in the official records against that player. But wait, there's one more administrative accumulation rule that novice officials working youth, girls, and high school games have to track.
The 4 penalty rule.
Right. Rule 401B mandates that any player who accumulates 4 penalties, minor, misconduct, major, it doesn't matter what kind in the same game, they must be assessed a game misconduct penalty.
That significantly increases the responsibility on the official to track the cumulative tally, especially in a fast-paced game. 4 cumulative penalties, and you have to assess a game misconduct. That administrative tally can't be forgotten.
Definitely not. Now let's move to the pinnacle of severity. The match penalty, Rule 405. This is the big one. The call every official hopes they never have to make.
The gravity is just.
Yeah.
It's unmatched because it's reserved for actions demonstrating a deliberate attempt to injure an opponent,
Yeah.
as outlined in Rule 602A, or behaving in a way that's critically detrimental to the game.
Exactly. When a match is called, there's zero question about the intent.
And that's what makes it so difficult to call. You are making a judgment on intent.
It is. To help officials, the rulebook highlights 3 examples that trigger a match penalty automatically because they just compromise the fundamental safety and respect required in the game.
Okay, what are those 3 critical, non-negotiable match penalty examples?
First, applying deliberate physical force or attempting to inflict physical harm to any game official. That's an automatic match, full stop, per Rule 601E.1.
Okay.
Second, any language that is hateful or discriminatory in nature, according to Rule 601E.3 under the Fair Play section. And the third is a very specific safety violation, deliberately removing a helmet prior to or during an altercation as mandated by Rule 615C.
That is heavy stuff. These are the moments when a novice referee is under maximum pressure. Once that decision is made, what's the sequence of on-ice action?
The sequence is crucial for maintaining control. First, signal the penalty immediately. That's tapping the open palm of the hand once on top of your head. Second, the offending individual is removed immediately. Third, a 5-minute penalty must be assessed and served by a substitute player, and this time, just like the major, is unwashable.
So you're signaling the most severe infraction and simultaneously ensuring the team is shorthanded for 5 full minutes.
That's it.
Okay, so we've established that the big 4 majors, misconducts, game misconducts, and match penalties, have severe on-ice and suspension consequences. But the referee's job doesn't end when the player leaves the ice. It transitions directly into the administrative phase.
Mandatory reporting.
Right.
And this is the most overlooked and most vital part of the job when dealing with these serious infractions. Your credibility and the integrity of the whole discipline system hinge on accurate reporting.
What exactly triggers that mandatory report? Is it just the match penalty?
No, it's broader than that. Rule 41 note specifies that game officials are required to file an incident report within 24 hours of the end of the game for all major penalties in the aggressive infraction category, all game misconducts, and all match penalties.
24 hours is a tight window. And for a novice official, what should that report really entail? It can't just be player X, player Y.
No. The report must be objective, factual, and detailed. Your goal is not to recommend a punishment, but to provide the disciplinary committee with the objective facts: who, what, where, when, and the circumstances surrounding it.
You're being an impartial witness.
Exactly. Focus on specific player numbers, the timing, exact language used if that's applicable, and the severity of the contact or action. You are documenting the chain of events.
Okay, and finally, let's just revisit the actual window for when an individual is considered suspended. This often surprises people.
It does, because the suspension isn't limited to just the game time. Rule 401C defines this window very clearly. For any individual serving a suspension, the suspension time begins 45 minutes prior to the start of the game and concludes 30 minutes following the conclusion of the game.
Wow, 45 minutes before puck drop to 30 minutes after the final buzzer. So that means the suspended player or coach is administratively barred from contact with the team environment for that entire duration. It emphasizes the complete removal of that individual.
It does. The integrity of the suspension is tied directly to the referee's adherence to that detail.
So let's quickly summarize the operational differences for you, the novice official.
Okay. The major penalty is a 5-minute strategic disadvantage. It costs crucial manpower and can't be washed out by a goal.
And it often comes with an automatic game misconduct and a 2-game suspension on that second offense.
Right. The misconduct is primarily behavioral. It's 10 minutes of penalty time, but it preserves on-ice strength.
But tracking the accumulation is key, because 2 misconducts, for any reason, automatically escalate to a game misconduct.
The game misconduct is a mandatory ejection for the balance of the game, charges 10 minutes to the player's record, and comes with an automatic suspension.
And you must track those 4 cumulative penalties as well, which results in the same ejection.
For sure. And the match penalty is the highest level of severity. It demands immediate removal, a 5-minute substitution penalty for the team, and mandatory reporting due to the extreme nature of the infraction, especially safety violations or abuse directed at officials.
The onus is on you to strictly enforce the aggressive infractions and provide that objective, detailed report within the 24-hour window.
That administrative step is where true game integrity is upheld. It's the transition from making the call to documenting the evidence.
That is a critical distillation of the administrative burden. Now, here's a provocative thought for you to chew on as you study these rules and prepare for your next shift. When a game misconduct or match penalty is assessed, the penalized player is not allowed to communicate with or direct their team from off-ice for the rest of the game. Considering the administrative suspension window starts 45 minutes pregame and ends 30 minutes postgame, how does your role as an official continue to uphold the integrity of that suspension if you encounter the penalized player in the arena corridor or the parking lot after the final buzzer has sounded but before that 30-minute window is closed? The rules apply long after the clock hits 0.